Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rugged Revival, the home of the UK's country music podcast. If you are new to us, we are your go-to music-based podcast where we entertain the very best conversations with incredible artists and bands. This is our very first episode of 2025, and we're very privileged to have Eli Cain join us on our very first 2025 podcast. Eli, did you want to tell people who you might only be discovering your music, your work, a bit about you?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you guys for contacting me. It's been awesome to get to know you so far. Just a little bit about me. My name is Eli Cain. I'm 24 years old, and I live in Watkinsville, Georgia. I paint houses for a living full time, and I write songs, record music, kind of as a part-time gig, but that's quickly growing for me, and hopefully in the long run, that'll be what I transition into because I can't paint forever. It's tiring, tiring work, but it pays the bills and pays for recording. So that's just a little short version about me, but there's a lot more to it. So we can get into that with any questions you guys have for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you again for having me.
No, Eli, thanks very much for joining us. And I know, like you've already said, you're working full time, trying to sort of juggle everything and come on here in your spare time. It's much appreciated. So I'm obviously here with TJ, my co-host.
Hello.
TJ, the Costa del Tel, as everybody fondly remembers him about. But yeah, so TJ's with us, and we're going to be asking Eli some questions today, and going through a bit of what you do and why you do it. So Eli, I'm going to go back to you about. You've said you're from Georgia, so whereabouts exactly are you from? What's it like? What was it like growing up? All that sort of stuff.
So
Little Eli.
Sweet. I'm in Watkinsville, Georgia right now, which is where I was not born and raised, but I moved here very quickly after I was born. So I've been here forever. I live right outside of Athens, Georgia, which is a big hub for college football. If you've ever heard of the Georgia Bulldogs, we are right down the road from the stadium. Watkinsville, Georgia is a small town, but growing. It definitely has grown a lot since I was younger, but I would still consider it. It's got a good small town feel and a lot of country, just back roads and different things like that. So it's a great place for country music. I'm actually sitting in a studio right now where I record everything that you've heard from me, besides a little bit of home recording that got me started. So I have the privilege of having a studio right down the road from where I grew up, and my parents have actually moved since then, but we lived right down the road from this studio that I'm in right now.
Oh, wow.
So it's really cool. Athens is just a great college town too, which is right down the road from me. There's a lot of good small bars, which got me started in the live music scene. There's open mic nights constantly throughout the week. There's plenty of opportunities at breweries and bars and just different gigs. So it's been really great being here and great for me just as far as meeting people and kind of branching out and getting the confidence needed to play these bigger and bigger live shows. So that's definitely a plus being in such a good college town with people my age, and there's older people as well. So, you just got a really good mix of people, and whenever everybody comes together, no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, it's always a good time, especially around music and playing live. So it's a good spot.
That's really good, and I think what I'd like to ask is how did you find music? How did you come from a musical family? Do you come from a sort of background of artists, concert goers, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Well, this is a question that could get very long-winded, so I'm going to try to avoid getting too long on you. But the funny thing is, and I don't share this a ton, but I'm proud of it. I was adopted when I was very young into a very loving family and home. But my birth mother, which I didn't know up until recently, was a singer, and she kind of was raised up with a lot of musical background. Her family all was very talented, but I didn't know that until probably age 16 or 17. And up until then, I had no musical interest. I just didn't really do anything. I couldn't hold a tune. I still can't, but I'm working on it. So I had no musical background up until about age 16, and a guy at church he had a banjo and he was picking it around, and I thought it sounded beautiful, and he was kind of an old legend around town. He could play it like no other. And I said, "Would you let me borrow one of your banjos?" And he gladly gave me this vintage, incredibly nice banjo. And I picked it up thinking I'm going to just rip this thing. I just heard that I actually do have musical talent. I just didn't know about it. So I started with the banjo, and that was a long journey. From about 16 to 18, I tried to pick the banjo and learn covers, and I quickly realized this is a hard instrument. So I kind of shifted my goals to an acoustic guitar, which was a little easier, and I can play the banjo. It's just not great. And at that young of an age, I didn't really have the dedication to learn that. I wanted something I could strum and play a cover or so. So I ended up getting an acoustic guitar and retiring part time from the banjo. Kind of hung it back up and gave it back to its owner. And I bought my first acoustic guitar, and I just played around, played some covers, and no, it did not seem like it came naturally. It took a lot of practice, a lot of nights sitting in the basement, and my parents would say, "Why are you screaming? You're screaming down there." And I was just trying to learn how to sing and play this thing. And there was periods of time where I'd put it down and I wouldn't sing for a little while, and then I think about age probably 20 or 21, somewhere in there, I said, I'm going to play 5 minutes every day, no matter how discouraging it is, no matter how hard it is. I'm going to play, and I'm going to learn a couple songs. So I started learning some Zach Bryan songs, some older Johnny Cash, just some kind of basic, easy songs too, that were just old gospel songs, anything I could get my hands on that was four chords, anything simple. So I just started playing and trying to sing them, and I would see minor improvements, and I got a little bit better. And I had a cousin who would play with me, which helped a lot. He would sit there and bear through the horrible playing and kind of help me carry the strumming patterns and all that. But all that to say, it did not come easy to get where I'm at right now. And just 15 minutes ago, we were working on a song, and I have trouble playing to a click track, or I have trouble playing to this. So it's all a learning thing for me. And I think everything that you've heard, you can kind of see the progression from my first couple songs to where we're at now. And I would say I'm not completely there, but the lyrics started falling into place, and the vocals are getting better, and they started falling into place as well. But it's just been a battle of not giving up and being able to accept that this song that I put out in 2021 was as best as I could do, or was the best I could do at the time. But we just that's a milestone, and we continue to push forward and learn from mistakes and learn from what's good and keep it going. So really, it's just been a grind. It's just like anything else. I learned how to paint one day, or learned how to ride a bike, and I'm still working on the music, still learning how to do it, and learning what works and what doesn't.
Eli, honestly, thank you very much for sharing that, your personal thing with us. We've asked that question to quite a few artists, and everybody gets very, very personal, and they don't mind giving the details. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. But also, that was brutally honest as well. And I think, what you're saying, it's a work in progress, and what you're doing, and, how you're developing all the time. That's exactly what people should be like, sticking at it. If it doesn't come naturally, you're sticking at it, and the amount of work and the effort that you're putting into it is incredible. And I've listened to your music; it is incredible. And I'll go into some quotes later that I saw on when we're doing some research, about yourself, and some of the quotes that people have given are amazing. They're incredible. So thank you. So how would you describe your? I know you said about the previous artists that you used to listen to, sort of Zach Bryan, Johnny Cash, and some of the gospel stuff that was coming out when you were younger and what have you. How would you describe your musical style now? Who else has been your sort of influences?
So I guess if I'm listening to anything just on a regular daily basis, it over the past couple years has remained Zach Bryan. I love Tyler Childers. And then some older guys is Johnny Cash, Randy Travis, Bob Dylan. I'm just a big fan of kind of storytelling lyrics. I like a good catchy song, but I also love just paying attention and really breaking down lyrically a song and trying to find a deeper meaning or whatever may come of it. So really any artist who kind of take you through a story with their music, I fall in love with immediately, because as a painter, I get a lot of time to listen to music, and to be able to listen to a song that sounds good and is also just a great story to it really keeps me awake and keeps me painting well. So that's just kind of the music I'm really driven by, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk to you about some of your tracks a bit later on, because it did mean, some of the tracks I've listened to, it did mean a lot. Some of the words that you were talking. And yeah, I'd just be really interested. I've got some questions about that. But so who are you listening to right now, if you don't mind me asking? Who are you? Or it's not like an endorsement or a float or anything, so for anybody else, but just interested to current day.
My go-to and some newer ones, I've recently been listening to a little bit of Dylan Gossett. He's kind of growing on my radar. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
Yeah.
He's along those lines of style and storytelling, and let me think of the word. It's just like down to earth, hearty lyrics, and he's a good one. Another is Whiskey Myers. They're a little bit on the rougher and a little bit more rock side, but I love their stuff. And then again, I always go back to the oldies of Childers, Johnny Cash. Those are on repeat constantly. There's a good mix of others that constantly being played and on my playlist, but I think I'd say those are the main ones. Zach Bryan, but maybe off the radar, I would say, well, I guess we're on it, so I'm not going to speak on it. I'm not as big of a Zach Bryan fan as I used to be. I love his earlier lyrics.
Got you. Got you. Thank you. And thanks for letting us all know about that. So I know we talked about what you do for a job and how you're working sort of constantly and then doing everything else. How do you juggle everything? Is there certain times that you go, right, that's it, this is my day, this is how it's structured, this is my week, this is what I'm doing? If you don't mind telling us a bit about that.
Yeah, the funny part about it is there's really no consistent schedule for me, which it's a plus, and it's also a minus, because I know we struggled with even getting a time on here. And but I guess the biggest note for me is it's inconsistent. I never know quite if it's going to rain and I can't paint that day, or if the studio man isn't going to be available to hit the buttons and record. So I'm flexible, and I try to bring my guitar everywhere I go and bring clothes to paint in everywhere I go. So a lot of days I may paint for a half a day and then swing into the studio and do a little recording or a little vocal cutting, and then I go home and write some more songs or whatever. But I'll say the typical songwriting process is pretty repeated, and it's pretty regular, that I'll be on a job and I may get a little line stuck in my head or a catchy melody that I think, that could be pretty, or that could be cool for a song. So I may be stuck humming something for a couple hours on the job, and I'll constantly be taking notes of, okay, this song feels like whatever. It feels like this is how the song should be. So I'll write notes on it. And then when I get home, usually I kind of expand those thoughts and pick up the guitar when I'm home and can use it, and I'll fiddle around, and maybe the whole thing comes out. Sometimes they come in 20 minutes, and then others I write a little bit and put it to the side on a piece of paper and take it to work, take it back home, and just consistently add to it. And then at some point I'll sit down and finish up that idea. So all in all, it's very inconsistent and very random. Like I said, some songs come in 20 minutes and others I'm still working on from 6 months ago. But it's kind of a nice coexist, or painting houses and the music for me can coexist very well, because I can be painting and then my mind can be on the song, and my mind can be on the story. And it gives me a lot of freedom and free time while I'm still working to be pursuing another goal at the same time, basically. So they work very well together.
Do you get 5 minutes to yourself? Because it seems like you're busy from the start of the day all the way through, and it's
I
yeah,
do.
it's
There's there's times when I'll just put it all up, and I am married, so I'll spend some time with my wife, and we have
yeah,
plenty of quality time together. But it's hard sometimes because I may get a great idea while we're having dinner, and it's like, do you mind if I write this down real quick? So it's hard to find balance, but it's definitely something I'm consistently getting better at, but also getting busier and more ideas as we go. So kind of just figuring it out.
brilliant, fair play. Thank you.
Superb. No, like I said, really appreciate you coming on, Eli. It feels like we've been talking for a long time now, doesn't it? Since last year when I first
Yeah.
messaged you about coming on, and I was really intrigued about the music that you were putting out, and was really impressed. This is why I put you on the playlist of people that we're trying to kind of we're just discovering ourselves and things that we think other people are like. And I like you say, I think the improvements that you've made in a short space of time have been staggering. But it explains it, the way you talk about, starting music later in life. I can hear that in a weird way now, thinking about your music in terms of that kind of raw honesty. And you've got this kind of unique sound to the stuff that you put out. So I really enjoy it. And everyone I speak to, and I was telling people who was coming on yourself, and, they're really excited about hearing more from you personally. So I think it's really good. And so in terms of, I say, making a swift start to your music career, mate, how has it been kind of playing gigs? Because I see last year you were playing more and more, and we can go into the Costello thing in a minute, but which was really interesting. But how did you start kind of playing the bars? What did it first look like? Was it intimidating for you?
So it definitely was intimidating. Funny story, back to the very beginning, I had never played live except for one cousin picked the banjo with me, and I had never sung or sang for anybody except him, just because we would get to playing along, and I was comfortable. I guess at the time I was really shy musically, and I was very comfortable playing around him because he was not afraid to just try and sing, and neither of us were any good. But at some point or another, he said, "Man, you're improving." He's like, "You need to try and get out and sing in front of more people, maybe our family or maybe an open mic night. You can get out, have a beer, loosen up, and just not know anybody there except me, and let's just see how it goes." So I let him talk me into it, and there was an open mic night down in Athens, right down the road at Boar's Head Lounge, and it was a Wednesday night, and he said, "Let's just go, and we're not going to tell anybody. And you play 3 songs, and we'll get out of there. You can put your hood on. You can be embarrassed, or maybe it's going to be good." He's like, "Let's just try it." And little did I know, he texted all of my friends and my family. And I get there, and it's a packed house. And I'm like, "Man, I'm not doing this. Like, we're going home." He was like, "Just play a song." So the first song I ever played live was Rock, Salt, and Nails. And I do it the Childers way. I know I don't think that's his original song. Um, but I did that song, and then I played a Zach Bryan, Heading South. And then I played an original, which was Take What You Want and Leave the Rest. And it just went a lot better than I thought. I was very nervous. I think I messed up mid song and had to stop and kind of laugh about it, and then kept going. But all in all, the night was it was just incredible experience to see people singing along. And, I wasn't perfect. My voice cracked. I got nervous, but people respected it and respected the honesty. And I told them, I think mid song one time, I was like, "Well, give me a second to breathe." I was just out of breath. I was just, really enjoying the moment. And I had friends and family there singing. So that was kind of like, well, that was the first time I played in front of anybody, and it was at an open mic. And from there, I continued to go to those open mics and played. And obviously, I didn't invite all the family every time, but some nights there would be a lot of people. Other nights it was just me and my cousin, and I would play along and just keep getting better and better. And then from that, I met some people in charge at the local bars and got some other gigs. So I started doing like 2-hour gigs rather than 3 songs at open mic. I would go out and play 2 hours at a time, and that was a lot harder and a lot longer. And by the end of it, my voice was gone because I don't have the greatest vocal control probably at the time, and I was just wearing myself out. But it was incredible and really fun, and seemed like people really enjoyed it when I played originals. They would listen, and I played good covers that were well known. They were Childers covers, Johnny Cash. Like I said, all the people that I really like, I would play my favorite songs as covers, and they just would perform pretty well in front of a crowd. And every now and then people would say, I have a long way to go and I need to work on the vocals. And I said, well, I knew that. I'm not perfect and I'm not good. I wouldn't even consider myself a very good singer. I just love when people are helping me sing and I can see people smiling and singing with me. It's just a fun thing. So it kind of just, the ball just kept rolling and different opportunities came, and my goal was to never to turn down a show or a gig or whatever. So I just took them as they came and showed up and played the songs and just continued to push and try to get better. I, along the way, had many awkward mess ups in the middle of a song, or a little bit of there was just some weird stuff that would go on. I would break a string, and I'm not very experienced, and it would take me way too long to put it back. But, I would just try and tell people that they're not paying for these gigs, and I'm just having fun, and I hope you guys are having fun as well, because I'm not a professional. And it just kept going, and I think we just got farther and farther, and I met the Castellos when they were in school here at UGA, and we kind of just started playing, and they were very similar, just very humble and super knowledgeable in music. So they taught me a lot, and we wrote some stuff together, and they said that I helped them writing, but those are three very smart girls, and they are very talented in writing themselves. But we kind of hit it off and had some fun and played some shows, and that was probably my favorite time. Just, it was the first time I got multiple people up there with me and had harmonies going and some bass going. It was just, the full experience was starting to kick in. So that was just a great time. And then obviously seeing them really take off and then invite me back to play with them recently, those are the biggest moments so far, and they were really incredible and just awesome to share stage once again with them.
Yeah, that's an amazing kind of transition from where you started very quickly to doing something like that. It's really impressive. Costello's are huge, I think, over in the States, but they are here as well, which is interesting. The last few years have really blown up, and I think it was probably from the kind of social media stuff that it kind of started and went viral, some of the things that they did. But no, that's really interesting, and you've got to be a brave man to get up and do those sort of things in front of an audience. Do you forgive your cousin now for doing that to you?
Oh yeah, he was the main motivator and really gave me some drive when we were first getting started. So I owe him thanks forever for it.
I don't blame you. It's I mean, we get stage fright just from doing this sometimes, and hence why we could never do this live, because you've already seen how many times we mess up and have to restart and edit stuff out. But like you, we'll get better, mate, as we go. But that's really cool. I mean, you've described the Georgia music scene, and it sounds really cool. And I like to try and get different guests on from all over the US, really, because I'm interested in the Nashville scene, the Texas scene, the Kentucky, and we've had interesting artists from those places. But I think you're the first from Georgia, so it's interesting to hear how that's kind of taken you and the audiences that you get. Has the music taken you anywhere else so far, such as Nashville or Texas, or is it predominantly been in Georgia where you've played?
So I haven't played live. I don't believe I've played anywhere besides Georgia. I've traveled to Nashville, and I did a little bit of recording with a buddy up there who records, and it was a good experience. But other than that recording trip, I haven't played anywhere else, but I do have some coming up. I have a writers round in Nashville within the next month, so that'll be the first, and hopefully by then I'll have a little more knowledge on the Nashville scene. I've been to plenty, I just haven't played one yet. So
that's cool. If you need any tips, we had Anna Scott on one of our first episodes, who's a Nashville resident and plays all of the bars down there. So she'd be a good person for you to speak to and just kind of get the lowdown on the area if you need that sort of support. She's fantastic as well. So in terms of, I mean, you talked about the Costellos, and I always find it interesting as well to speak to artists to find out. They usually have a circle of other musicians that you tend to kind of hang out with or support one of another. So we had Brennan Edwards on not too long ago, and he hangs around with like the likes of Chris Hunt, who's also another awesome artist. And it's interesting to find out who you're being supported by, or what kind of circles you're moving in within the kind of Georgia scene. Is there anyone in particular that you kind of regularly come across?
Yeah, so this is a good point of topic. We do a little thing out at my family has a farm down the road in Monticello, Georgia, and we do a little flatbed festival, and it's kind of grown over the years, and that's really where I would say the circle for me is. We have the same artists usually return, and one of those is named Will Slater, and he also records in this studio. And then there's James Tucker. He's from the Carolinas, I think South Carolina. I don't actually know because I've never been his way, but he comes down every year and we have a good time. And he's kind of a similar style, if you haven't heard him, to me or Will Slater, who I just mentioned. I grew up in Watkinsville, like I said, and like we've talked about, but Gavin Adcock also grew up right down the road, and he's kind of become a really big in the music scene for his genre. We're definitely different, but I really love his music. I've helped him write, and he's helped me here and there. So we have a good friendship, and he records here as well. So he's been a good inspiration for me. And I guess I can look and see a buddy who's doing it, and he's doing well. And he's doing
he's
very
blown
well.
up.
And
Yeah, like you say, he's blown up in the last year. He's an interesting character, isn't he? He's
yes,
I think
for
he's
sure.
a chalk and cheese character, as people put it. But I love his stuff too. So that's really interesting. Yeah, that you're in touch with Gavin as well. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yep. And then there's just plenty of other songwriters that I have that are just quality. I write all of my stuff by myself, but I love getting with other people and helping write songs for other people, and that's just a fun process. So there's other writers that don't necessarily perform who write stuff as me. So we have a good little scene here. It's not a Nashville, and it's not a Texas or a big city, but I got what I need, and we have some good friendships that are here.
Superb. Yeah, no, that's great. In terms of, I mean, it's interesting kind of going back to how relatively new you are to music rather than, just the music scene itself. So to know that you're writing so much, and you're writing for other people or with other people too. I mean, do you have a conventional approach to writing your records? How did you kind of learn that part of it? Because it must be quite difficult to structure a song or know where to start if you've never really done it before.
Yeah, so that was a really tough, like I think my first couple songs, it was just really tough to kind of see them come together and make them a singable song. I would have good lyrics, and then I would have a decent chord progression, and the hard part for me at first was just kind of making those two merge. So what I would do is I would just sit on a like a loop of a voice memo or record just the chord progression, and I would just sit there on the job painting and put in both headphones and just let that loop run, and I would hum and I would write lyrics, and then I would try to sing the lyrics to it, and it just took a lot of trial and error, and there's a lot of bad songs that I have not shared that just kind of all formed together, and then I finally wrote my first full song, which was Home. And you can still hear that. It's very rough. It's very raw. We just hooked up the mics and I played it one day after work. But that one finally came together as a piece of work that I said, okay, I can play it from the start to the finish, and it roughly goes together. I can make it work. So it was just a lot of trial and error, a lot of writing and rewriting the same song with a different chord progression. I literally have no like musical knowledge as far as like a books go and how song structure should work. I just do it and do it and do it. And if it sounds good, finally, I'll take it to the studio and we write it or we record it, and I'm always open to suggestions. So I have a really good guy who runs the computer and produces, and he's good at kind of just saying, maybe we should try a different key, or he knows the knowledge better than I do. But I will say that as far as the writing and the lyrics, and for the most part, the song structure, I do write it all myself. It just takes a long time sometimes, especially at the beginning when I didn't know really anything at all. It was just trial and error, sing it, erase it, sing it, and erase it, and just keep it on going until it sounded good.
Yeah.
Eli, sorry, there was just a question I just wanted to ask you about the home song, and there is a awesome picture on the front of that.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's the track. Is that a personal picture? I take it is
Yes.
that you and other buddies?
So that's an old picture. We used to, on New Year's Day, it was a family tradition. We would go out, and there were cows at the family farm that needed to be castrated, and they needed to be tagged. So we would all hop in the back of the truck and go find the new calves, and we would make it happen. We'd pass around the knife and pass around the tagging tool and get to work. So it was a New Year's tradition, and that picture is from that, and that's my family out on the farm.
Awesome. And then that song, I take it, it's personal experiences and, talking about yourself growing up and all that sort of stuff.
It is.
I was listening to it, and I managed to listen to it on YouTube, and there was some other photos and stuff on there. But yeah, awesome. I don't know if you wanted to tell us any more about that, but yeah.
Yeah. So I actually spent close to a year living out west. And this was, I played guitar at the time, but I had never written a song. I was kind of still in the process of learning all of that. And I moved out west, and I did some videography and tried to pursue some business goals of mine. I actually, to take a step back, I went to the University of Georgia for a year and decided that I wanted to kind of do things a little differently and chase some dreams. So I ended up not going for another year, and I stopped going to UGA, moved west, pursued some dreams, and I learned a lot, but they just didn't take off. And all in all, I was not built to live out there. I didn't love the big city, and it just didn't feel like home. So when I was writing all these things in a journal, and I was just writing how I miss family and miss my Mimi and Papa, miss my cousins and days out on the lake and just everything. So I wrote in a journal. Then when I returned home, I was kind of reflecting, and I was like, that looks like a good song. That was a lot of journaling with some deep thoughts, and I was missing people and talking about how I didn't like it out there. And I was like, this could be a good song. So I sat on that idea and some chords, and that's how the first song formed. So the song is really about being away from home, which for me was out west, and just missing everything that home was. I miss my grandparents and just a family and the memories we have together. And it was like I was just so far from it that I knew it was time to head on back. So that's in a sense how that song was formed, and it was all personal experience.
That's incredible.
Yep. Well, thank you very much.
No, really,
that's
really
definitely
good.
one of my most meaningful ones.
Yeah.
To me,
and you can just listening to it. I've listened to it quite a few times now. Play it going to work and coming back and what have you. And that really does. You can really tell when an artist, you connect with that, and it is about your personal experiences, and it's so raw. And that was brilliant. Sorry, Terry, I've stolen part of your question.
Stolen my thunder.
There is. I do have two more questions, if that's all right. And it was just about another song, because I know that I said I was going to ask you about some of the songs, and I think the other one for me was it was just something I wanted to know. But the song called "Driving in Silence," which was on YouTube. I listened to all different platforms to listen to your songs on, and that one especially, there was a pickup truck in that, and I'm a great fan of pickup trucks, and that is an awesome pickup truck. And is it yours?
It is mine. That was my first vehicle, and a funny story. I bought it off of a high school teacher. She was getting ready to sell it, and I said, I need my first truck. I think I was 15, and I said, I asked my dad. I was like, do you think that I could ask my teacher if I could buy this truck? And he was like, yeah, might as well. And she sold it to me for $1,000 cash, and I still have it to this day. I learned how to drive it. A straight shift, 5-speed, and I got made fun of because a lot of people at school had a nicer vehicle than me, but I loved it. I thought it was the coolest
Yeah.
thing on earth.
Yeah.
And now, still holding on to it, I drive it around on Sunday afternoons and take a cruise whenever, or I use it a lot in the music because it's just, I feel like it's an icon, you know, it's kind of a staple to who I was and who I want to remain. You know, it's just simple and I love it. So that was my first vehicle.
That's brilliant. And I think when we come over to see you, I'll be taking it out for a drive.
Oh yeah,
no, it's awesome.
Come on, you can drive it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have truck envy over here in the UK, don't we? Because we don't tend to have opportunities to get something like that or drive it on our road.
No,
So
I've got a new one, so it's not so authentic. It's not so, you know, as good looking as that. So yeah, I loved it. But thank you for that. I'll hand back over to you now.
Thank you very much.
No, it's cool. I was talking to, was it Ricky Forbes, who was on a show a couple of shows back, who's the Tornado guy, and he's got the coolest truck ever. He's got Brutus. It's one of these kind of reinforced, massive. He called it an obnoxious orange thing, and it really is. It's absolutely humongous, but it's got to survive, you know, massive hailstorms and tornadoes and stuff. So I probably don't need one of them. I don't think my wife would let me have one either, unfortunately. But we can dream. No, thanks for sharing that, mate. It's been really interesting to kind of go through that. It'd be remiss as well not to talk about your band as well, because I've seen you mention them a few times. The 53, isn't it? So talk to us about the 53. How did that come about?
So the 53, the name boils down to the road. There's Highway 53 that runs right through Watkinsville and goes out a long ways. And all of the band, including me, I was actually about 5 minutes from Highway 53, but they all lived right off of Highway 53. So that's how we got the name, the 53. I actually grew up with all of them. I really didn't know that they had musical talents or aspirations, and they didn't know that I did for a long time. So we were just kind of high school buddies, like not super close, but also could have a great conversation or could hang out in the gym, shoot some hoops or whatever. So we were friends and just kind of just didn't know that each of us had these musical talents. But then the three of them kind of over the years started getting together and playing some music, and they're actually very talented on their own. They play and they kind of write their own stuff and have some instrumentals, and they also have some unrecorded songs that are lyrics, and they're very good. But then one night they came out to an open mic night and they were like, "Hey, good to catch up. It's been a couple of years, you know, we hadn't seen each other." And they were like, "We've been playing some music. We see now that you're playing some music. We live so close. Why don't we try to get together and do something about it?" And I was like, you know, let's make it happen. I had a lot on the plate and I said, let's start it in the new year. I think this was in 2022. I said, let's start it when the new year comes. We'll get together, play a little music and just see how it goes. And, you know, we got together and it just felt like, yeah, this is good. This is just a great time. We all had very similar musical tastes. We had very similar personalities. We all work in a blue collar job and are doing this part time. So everything kind of lined up and we were willing to work a long day and then get together and work even longer and practice our craft. So it kind of just fell into place and we started playing together, and we played our first show at a bar downtown Athens and it was packed out. You know, we didn't sell tickets. The bar had a lot of people there anyways, but we advertised it as best as we could and packed that thing out and played, I think, a 2-hour show, and we were exhausted afterwards. But I would say that was the best time I had playing music, because the more people you get who are just talented and driven like you are, you know, it just is better and better and better. So we really enjoyed that, and we're like, we got to do this again. So we started booking more and more as we could, and it just really became fluid, and it felt like we just knew what one another was kind of doing. So it just meshed very nicely, very quickly, because like I said, they're very talented. They do have a lot of musical knowledge that I don't have. So they taught me a lot, and I taught them my lyrics and taught them my songs. So we kind of jumped in really quickly as a group and just started playing. And like I said, I mess up on my own and we mess up as a group, but we all look at each other and smile and move on. And most of the time nobody notices. So It's just fun.
Well, I've been to John Mayer gigs and I've seen John Mayer mess up live. So it's, I think it happens to the best of them. Like you say, it's just a case of smiling, carrying on. This is pretty much what we do for every podcast that we do, to be quite honest. Otherwise, you just stress yourself out. I've got two more questions and then I'm going to hand back over to Dan. I'm just interested, obviously, we're in 2025 now, just about, and a lot happened for you in 2024. What was kind of your best moment from that year that you can share with us?
I would say my best moment of the whole year was we played 2 shows on the road with the Castellos, and the first night was a Thursday night and we had a great time, and then the next night was a Friday night and we went down to Milledgeville, and the night before was good and we had a great crowd, but we were like kind of hoping for a little bit more, and we just wanted to really feel the excitement and the energy, because we had seen some of their shows and we're like, wow, that'd be a record for the amount of people we play in front of. So we were hoping for just a really big turnout, and sure enough, time came. We got out there, we started opening up, and the lights came on and it was like a sea of people. Now, I don't know how many people were there. It could have been 300, it could have been 150, or it could have been 500, but I estimated it was somewhere between 350 to 500 people, which for me was just incredible. And they seemed engaged, and they really listened, and they listened to the originals, and they jammed with us and sang a couple covers. So it was just a pretty unreal feeling, just having that many people in front of you. And honestly, it felt better than some of the smallest gigs we've played. It's harder when there's 3 people staring at you than a ton of people, and you kind of get lost in the crowd. So that was just unreal. We came off of that stage just really on fire and wanting to push the original music more and more and more, so we could kind of build a fan base and build a crowd like that who would know more of our songs and more of my originals, because it was just a really cool experience to see people having a good time, and to know, okay, I'm kind of helping and playing a part in this. And to just realize how far we as a band have come from playing a small bar to being on a stage like that. So I guess that would be probably one of my favorite moments of 2024.
That's a good one to pick, mate. Definitely. And on the flip side of it, what was the kind of most frustrating thing to happen for you last year? Because I speak to a lot of artists, and there's whether it's social media or booking gigs or whatever it might be, there's always something that really annoys you and something that goes wrong. So what might have been for you that kind of sticks in your mind?
I would definitely say I had an older home recorded song, which you guys may have heard the old version or maybe heard the new version, but it was called Take What You Want and Leave the Rest. And I had recorded that in my basement, and it was very rough recorded, and I put it out there, and every live video I would share would do a lot better than a lot of my other songs. You know how social media goes. Sometimes things just do really well, and sometimes stuff you think is going to do well does not perform at all. So I had recorded that one very roughly, and I had advertised it, and it had done pretty well over the years. And I said, maybe it's time to kind of revamp it. I've improved a lot as a singer, and I've improved a lot with the band. So the band and I got together, re-recorded it, advertised it, and as of today, I think I put it out a good 4 months ago or 5 months ago, and it just didn't really hit. I know you guys listened to it, and it just didn't hit quite like I had hoped it would. And it's always frustrating putting in a lot of work and then advertising it, and it just doesn't quite catch the audience or the algorithm like you think. So it's definitely disappointing, but I can continuously tell myself it's like a long-term investment. You can't just expect something you don't just, I don't know. There's people that do it, but I like to trade stocks here and there, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but you can't just throw money into it and expect them to take off. So I kind of have that mindset with the music,
No, that's a good point.
Very well.
Yeah, sorry to talk over you. It's a good point you make there. And I think it was Adam Hood that mentioned the exact same thing when we spoke to him not long ago, is that, the records that he put out he thought would do amazingly well were the ones that didn't. And it was the more obscure songs that he, perhaps put to the back of his mind that did the best. But like you say, it's a long-term investment, and people come back around, and once they find the tracks that they do like, and then they do a deep dive like Ronnie and I have done recently, you uncover that, and it's it becomes your new favorite at that point.
Yeah.
But no, that's really great. I appreciate you sharing those moments. I think that's it's just nice to kind of understand where you're coming from, particularly last year. So brilliant. Over to you then, Ronnie. I'll give you the mic back.
Oh, thank you, TJ. Yeah, so Eli, I just wanted to know, what's your main goals? What's your aspirations? And when you think about them, if you have any, do you have a roadmap for it? Do you have a plan for that to get you there to do what you're doing just for 2025?
Yeah, well, short-term goal of 2025. Sorry, my lights behind me every time I move are going crazy, so I'm blinding you. But my a good short-term goal, and kind of something I've been establishing over the last couple of weeks, is I want to roughly put out a single every 30 to 45 days, a little bit,
Wow.
a little extra, like a little bit more or less than one a month, I guess. So one a month, roughly. At the end of the year, I want to look back and have 12 songs that I put out, if not more. But just to have consistency in my releases and consistency in my social media activity, because I feel like that's been good at points and then bad in others. And you really see an increase in success and decrease nowadays and how consistent you are. So I want to be more consistent in sharing music. And I have a lot of songs that are very close to ready. So that is a doable goal. And a little bit longer term, I would like to continue to play with a band, play acoustic gigs. And I have a really long-term goal of playing Red Rocks in Colorado. And that's down the road, but that is one of my, just a big time goal that I always keep in mind. I put it on the mirror, and who knows how long it's going to take, but it's going to happen at some point. So that just gives you a little insight. I got a short-term one of just a lot of music and to play that.
Well, we're looking forward to the short-term goal throughout by listening to some of the stuff, the new songs that you're going to be releasing. So we'll definitely be listening out for that and watching you very, very closely. So thank you for sharing that as well. So what do you have in store for 2025? Is there anything that you can tell us that you wouldn't normally tell anybody else? We want the gossip, Eli. We want the gossip.
Okay. So I'm going to give you, before we get done here today, or when we get done, I'm going to send you a little clip of the newest song, and it's kind of different style. It's got a little bit of a Western, I guess, kind of like an empty bar, smoky bar type feel. It's different for me. So if you don't like it, no sweat, but I think that's going to be kind of a cool direction just to spice things up a little bit. Let's think of what else I can tell you.
Put you on the spot.
I just invested over Christmas in a camera, so I hope to do some like longer, more acoustic, raw type YouTube videos and stuff like that. So I don't know when those will start coming out, but I would love to just kind of sit down and be real with the people of YouTube who do see it. So maybe be on the lookout for those, and just some honest stuff, maybe out on the family farm, just singing with the cows or whatever. Those are just kind of some small thoughts of mine and little things that I'm going to help.
Well, it means we'll have to come over very soon, because TJ has just invested in the camera, so he's going to start doing that as well. So you'll have to team up with him.
That is great.
That was the idea. In the background,
doing
looking pretty. No, I really liked your YouTube video of "Take Me to That Place," isn't it? That song, and it was a lovely place that you're at. Is it by the lake? Is that somewhere local where you are? It's a good video, that.
Yes, there's a couple little local lakes that they're just public fishing or public access. So that one was down there, and then I've done others out at the family farm. They have a little pond that we do a lot of fishing. So there's some others that are shot there and are going to be shot there in the future, because it's just beautiful to get out there and film and sing. And I feel like it sounds better when you're out there. So we'll definitely continue to do that.
I love those videos, and I don't know if you're familiar with things like the Truthful sessions. There's a guy called David Cole I was speaking to recently, and he does those sort of field recordings and cinematic kind of raw recordings, either by lakes or just nice kind of places. And I said, oh, I bought a camera to do something similar. I was like, what setup do you have? And he goes, oh, his friend's got a camera worth £30,000 or, $40,000. I thought, oh, right, yeah, I spent, probably £1,000. So I don't think the quality of my videos will be as good as David's, but yeah, we'll try. But it's a real.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
You do, mate. You do. There's definitely an art to it, and I think it'd just be nice to start doing some recordings, and particularly in the UK, we've got some great places to do that. So hopefully we'll do that. Cool. Okay, Ronnie. Sorry, mate. I spoke over.
That's
you.
all right. No worries. You and Eli were camera talk, so yeah, it's fine. So we've already planned what we've got you two doing for 2025, and I'll be interested to see what comes out of that. So yeah. So I know we've touched on the sort of social media aspect of it, and TJ quite rightly, we were talking about it before we met you, Eli, around something around TikTok and social media, and there's actually quite a bit of media attention around the fact that you engage so much with your audience, you engage so much with them and thank them on social media throughout, and there's really positive vibes on that, and that's different to a lot of other artists that clearly, sometimes don't have time or sometimes don't really do that. You reach out to people and that means something to all the audiences. But is there anything that impacts you on social media? So I know that we talked, it's a controversial type of subject, but the TikTok sort of ban that has been sort of talked about, is there anything like that would have an effect on what you do, or would you?
So that's a good question. I've seen, and over the years, I've had some really good periods of time, and then I've had some where it just is very down and stuff just doesn't seem to work. So I guess my main goal and mindset is to stay fluid and consistently do what's working and consistently do what doesn't work. So I try not to get caught in the ups and downs of views and comments. But I think it would really stink if TikTok wasn't available. I think it's a great avenue, and people on there love the quick, short videos, and it's just a great way to make something simply, maybe to make something that's really stupid, but it works, and just share stuff kind of with no filter. It's just pretty raw stuff sometimes. Other times I put a little more effort into it. Other times I look back and I'm like, gosh, probably shouldn't have even posted that. It's really dumb. But, it works, and not a lot of people see it sometimes, and then sometimes a lot of people do see it. So it's a great avenue, and I use it very frequently. I try to tell people, if you want some quality, good stuff, don't go to my TikTok, but it's good for, reaching new people, in my opinion, and kind of just not really caring. I just try to post stuff consistently. And obviously, like you said, I do try to respond to people and respond to DMs or respond to emails even, or whatever, because I had a period of time where I was reaching out, trying to learn stuff, messaging my favorite artists, and I don't think any of them ever responded. And I remember thinking, as I continue to grow, which I had hopes that I would, and I did, I grew a little bit and I'm growing more and more. And I said, I know I can't respond to everybody and I can't be there, but I want to do a good job at giving people the opportunity to learn a little bit. If somebody asks me for some songwriting tips, I'm gonna send them everything I know, And so I try to do that just to be a little different, and to take the time to care about other people who care about me, because there's a lot of people who find something in my music and they want to let me know about it, and I'm glad to hear it, and I'm very appreciative, and it keeps me going. So I think the social media in general is just really the way to do it right now. As we've moved on in time, it's just become so big for artists and such a great opportunity. And to lose something like TikTok would stink. But like I said, if it happens, it would be fluid, and I'll continue to morph and figure out what works, and then keep doing what doesn't work, because you got to do it all, just keep on pushing.
Definitely. And what you've just said there, that's an incredible ethos that you've kept with you, and the more and more you grow, about engaging with the audiences and everything else. And it shows to me, it's all true that what you say. I just wanted to mention this on here, because when I was looking at sort of your background and doing some research about it and your songs and your music, I come across quite a few quotes about how you've been interacting with people and yourself as an artist. And it's an incredible quote that's put on here. So it says that your dedication to your craft and the ability to connect with your listeners through authentic storytelling has established you as a notable figure in the country music scene. And they're very excited to see more of your content and more of your artwork being released. So that's a huge thing, and amazing. So well done, mate, to be honest. Well done to you.
Thank you very much.
So I mean, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to ask you personally. But no, I know that TJ's asked a few questions. TJ, I don't know if you want to ask any further questions, or Eli, if you've got any questions for us. I know it's, we want to make it about you, but
Yeah, definitely. Well, like you say, the TikTok ban would suck. I think that'll be my final point. We've all trying to build communities and kind of friendships online, and yeah, it's going to be difficult, that one, I think, and it's so hard. And like you said, with Instagram and everything else, to try and post consistently, kind of build up your kind of following and network, and then for it to all potentially be gone overnight. I don't think it will come to that, but we'll have to stick together, us lot, and follow each other where we can, and find each other where we can. But we'll see what happens there. But yeah, like Ronnie said, have you got anything that you want to ask us, Eli, or anything that perhaps we haven't covered that you want to share with the audience in terms of what you're doing this year?
I guess a quick question for you guys. You've kind of listened to the catalog of mine. I would like to know personally if you have any standout favorites, and maybe why, because as an artist, I want to take note of that and continue to make songs like that, or whatever pulled at the heartstrings. I want to keep it going. So I'll ask both of you that question if I can.
I'm going to go first, actually, TJ.
Do that.
There's a couple of songs that I've talked about, one of which is Home, Driving in Silence, but also I think the one that stuck out to me, which I listened to and thought, I'm going to go and listen to that again. I wanted to listen to it again and again, was If Tattoos Could Talk. And that was one of mine that really stuck out for me. And I'm, from what you just said about your short-term goal, a bit more of a Western sort of vibe, or Western twang, or what you just said about the new single coming out. I'm really excited to hear that. That would be something for me that would really, I'll be really interested, and I'm can't wait to get hold of it, to be honest, Eli.
Oh yeah. Well, don't let me forget. I'm going to shoot that to you guys, and I don't know if you can put a little clip on here, but I'd be glad to let you do whatever you please. So
Brilliant.
I'll make sure we do that.
Kind of you, man. Yeah, well, super interested to hear that. Me personally, Take Me to That Place, it's just a jam. It's stuck in my head forever. I'm singing it around the house badly, may I add. So not doing your song any justice, but I love that song, and I think it's got a kind of summery vibe to it, shall I say? And obviously watching the YouTube video as well, it's just a well-recorded song and a great video. So I think, for me, that's my personal favourite, mate.
Well, thank you.
Eli, just a last one from me, for everybody that's listening. Where can they find you? What are you on? How do you get to you? How can we signpost people?
I would say the best content is going to be the songs that I release, and they should be really anywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. YouTube, you may find some videos here and there, some longer videos, and then there's always the Instagram. I'm pretty active on there, which is a fun one. TikTok, like I said, I kind of just post whatever. You may see me painting a lot, and you may see very repetitive video making, but my TikTok is kind of just to attract new people, hopefully, so they go to other platforms. And then if you're anywhere around Georgia, I'm always open to gigs, and I'm continuously booking here and there. So hopefully we'll expand from that. But for the time being, the social medias, all the streaming platforms, I'll be consistent on those. Like I said, hopefully one a month roughly, and some YouTube coming. So that'll be something to look for, and hopefully I'll be more consistent on that. That's the goal.
No, that's great, and we'll make sure we post that everywhere. Everything that you send us, we'll make sure we post it all over our channels, TikTok, Instagram, and and we'll make sure we share it far and wide. I know there's definitely material on YouTube because I've watched this several times myself over Whiskey on the Rocks, but I think unless there's anything else, TJ or yourself want to add, I think we're just going to go for a bit of a closing where Eli Cain, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to have you here joining us. We wish you, all of us here at the Rugged Revival, wish you all the very best in everything you do. And as a closing statement, as we've done at every podcast, I don't know if you've got a drink handy, whether that be a soft drink, alcoholic drink, non-alcoholic drink, whatever.
It's Monday, soft drink for me.
Yeah, it's Monday, so I've got water. So we raise a toast to the grit, the grind, and the revival. Cheers for everybody who's listening, and Eli, thank you very much. Cheers.